One engine, no backup, and yet this aircraft flies straight into fire, smoke, and chaos like it owns the sky. By morning, it's fighting wildfires. By afternoon, it's feeding entire farms. This isn't a stunt plane or a science project. It's the Air Tractor AT-802, and it does jobs most aircraft wouldn't even attempt. The company that thought big when everyone else went small. The AT-802 comes from Air Tractor Inc., a company that ignored the mainstream race toward carved-from-carbon composites and luxury avionics, at least at the beginning, and instead obsessed over strength, reliability, and repairability. While much of aviation polished its image, this builder doubled down on industrial purity. Their design language was simple and radical at the same time. Make it tougher than it needs to be, then make it simple enough to keep flying when the world breaks around it. That philosophy is written into every structural line. The AT-802 is unapologetically purpose-built. A wide stance for rugged ground handling, a cockpit perched for visibility, a wing sized for heavy loads and low speeds, and systems laid out so a field mechanic with good hands can keep it alive anywhere on the planet. It's not that the company rejects modernity, far from it. They simply refuse to sacrifice durability on its altar. Anatomy of a tank with wings. From the outside, the AT-802 reads like an agricultural brute, because it is. But look closer, you see design choices aimed at survival. The landing gear is tall and strong, meant for short, uneven strips that would shatter lighter machines. The wing isn't slender for speed. It's broad for lift at low airspeeds and heavy gross weights. The fuselage is all business, built to endure chemical corrosion in farm work and thermal shock in fire operations. Inside the cockpit, nothing is decorative. Every switch, lever, and display is there to cut workload and increase situational awareness. High-use controls sit where a gloved hand finds them without searching. Newer avionics packages offer synthetic vision, digital engine monitoring, and navigation that keeps the pilot precisely on task when the view disappears behind smoke or dust. It's the kind of care that doesn't photograph well, but saves lives quietly. Why the engine changes everything. Powering this giant is a turboprop from the family made legendary by Pratt & Whitney. In agricultural and utility configuration, the engine delivers power that feels absurd for a single, well north of 1,000 shaft horsepower, with variants touching the upper end of the turboprop spectrum. More important than the number is what it buys you. Climb when you're heavy, control when you're slow, and confidence when the day turns ugly. There's a deeper reason this engine matters. The PT6 lineage has earned its reputation the hard way, with millions of hours in unforgiving environments. For operators who live by dispatch rates, this isn't merely mechanical bragging, it's livelihood insurance. When the season is short and the stakes are high, you don't want character in an engine. You want predictability, agriculture, firefighting, and beyond. The AT-802 superpower isn't one trick, it's adaptability. In agricultural work, it carries an industrial-scale hopper that can swallow hundreds of gallons or thousands of pounds of product. The airplane spreads fertilizer, seed, or crop protection across acres before ground equipment finishes its first tank. That's not speed for sport, it's speed that feeds cities. Then, the machine changes coats. Add firefighting equipment, and it becomes an aerial tanker. In this role, the AT-802 trades chemicals for water or fire retardant and trades geometry for geometry, the exacting pattern of a drop. The airplane isn't about random heroics, it's about geometry done right. Angle, speed, altitude, and timing, so the line it draws in the sky becomes a barrier on the ground. There's also an amphibious configuration that can land on water, scoop a full load in seconds, and blast back toward a glowing skyline of flame. When lakes, rivers, and reservoirs are nearby, turnaround time collapses. And when minutes are the difference between control and catastrophe, collapse is victory. When a farm plane learns combat economics. The AT-802's resume holds a chapter that surprises people who think of it only as a crop duster, defense, and security. A militarized Overwatch variant adds armor, sensors, night vision, and hardpoints. It can loiter for hours at a fraction of the cost of jets, supplying eyes, coordination, and, when authorized, precision. Here, its agricultural DNA becomes an advantage. Low-speed stability, ruggedness, and endurance are exactly what surveillance and border patrol crave. In a defense budget world that finally admits not every problem needs a jet, this airplane becomes an adult conversation about cost-benefit engineering. It's not designed to replace high-end fighters. It's designed to do the work those fighters should never have been assigned in the first place. The myth and the measurement of most powerful. Let's be honest about the superlative that follows this aircraft like a shadow. The most powerful single-engine aircraft. Raw horsepower alone never tells the story. Real power is measured at the mission line. How much you can carry, how slowly you can safely fly, how quickly you can climb with a full belly, and how precisely you can place a load when terrain wants to ruin you. In that sense, the AT-802 earns its reputation. It is one of the largest, heaviest lifting, and hardest working single-engine airplanes ever put into serial production for civilian and mixed roles. It doesn't win speed records, and it doesn't pretend to. Its performance envelope lives where work gets difficult and error gets expensive. The economics of $5 million. The headline price makes sense once you understand what's included. A base airframe is one thing, a mission-ready machine is another. Firefighting kits, amphibious floats, advanced avionics, spares, training, data systems, and support contracts add up. So does certification, customization, and integration. You're not purchasing a single tool, you're buying an industrial capability with wings. That price also buys something rarely advertised: time. In agriculture, the right weather window might be hours long. In fire seasons, a wind shift can undo days of work. The AT-802 makes a living by narrow windows. If it flies every morning, peaks at noon, and comes back when the math still works, it pays for itself faster than spreadsheets admit. Pilot stories: respect first, love later. Talk to pilots who fly this aircraft and a pattern emerges. First comes respect. They learn quickly that the AT-802 asks for discipline. It's powerful, which means it can bite if disrespected. It's heavy, which means it demands numbers. And it's honest, which means it tells you the truth as soon as you stop listening. Then comes love. It earns affection by doing what it says it will do, every day. In aviation, affection isn't romance, it's reliability. It's the quiet relief that shows up when smoke turns sunsets into coin-colored skies and the airplane keeps asking for another load. Technology without tinsel. Modern versions of the AT-802 are no strangers to glass cockpits, satellite navigation, and digital health monitoring. What makes the technology special isn't its novelty, it's its restraint. Everything added answers a question from the field. How can we see better? Fly safer? Downtime less? The airplane becomes a platform for pragmatic innovation rather than a showroom. This design ethic extends to maintainability. Panels come off easily, systems are accessible, documentation is written like someone expects you to use it while tired. These are small mercies that become enormous when your season stretches into weeks without a day off. The global footprint. From the Americas to Australia, the AT-802 works wherever land is vast and fire is hungry. It fits into countries with long dry seasons and countries with short, frantic harvest windows. It shows up where roads don't and where weather refuses to cooperate. In many regions, it's not a luxury, it's infrastructure. When crops survive and towns breathe easier, few people care what wing it came under. Environmental mathematics. Irony loves aviation. The airplane that burns fuel saves forests. The calculus works this way. Rapid response prevents megafires. Megafires cost more carbon than any fleet of tankers could dream of producing. In agriculture, precision spraying reduces waste and runoff. Fewer passes mean fewer emissions for the same, or better, results. When engineering answers hunger and fire with efficiency, it becomes environmental policy by other means. how it stays relevant in an AI world. Even as drones map fields and satellites track smoke, the AT-802 keeps its seat at the table. Data tells you where to go, aircraft take you there, and increasingly, the airplane consumes that data in real time, mapping edges, optimizing drops, and reducing guesswork. This isn't old aviation at war with new technology. It's muscle guided by mathematics. What the AT-802 isn't. It isn't glamorous. It doesn't trade on futurism or stealth. It doesn't care about speed records. It will never look elegant next to carbon fiber art pieces with winglets like calligraphy. And that's the point. The AT-802 is the inverse of fashion. It refuses to be trendy because trend dies young. Why its story matters. In a culture that celebrates the shiny and the speculative, the AT-802 represents another tradition, the belief that engineering should solve clear problems with unapologetic force. It reminds us that progress doesn't always whisper. Sometimes it roars overhead with a full hopper and a plan. It also reminds content creators and audiences alike of a useful rule. The biggest stories are often found where no one is looking. In a world obsessed with what's next, machines that work now quietly save lives. Heavier loads, smarter systems. Incremental upgrades will continue. Expect smarter diagnostics, better mission software, and materials that stretch service lives further. The silhouette may stay familiar, but the brain will evolve. That's how this airplane remains modern without pretending to be something it isn't. One engine, infinite consequence. The Air Tractor AT-802 proves a stubborn truth. Greatness doesn't always add engines or complexity. Sometimes it removes excuses. One engine, endless tasks, a machine that exists to work, and suddenly you understand why it costs what it costs. If this kind of engineering story moves you, the kind where metal earns its keep, like this video, subscribe for more deep dives into aircraft that work for a living, and tell us in the comments, would you fly into smoke with one engine and trust it with your life?